5 days after a factory worker disappeared on her way home. Her father found some of her clothing beside a cornfield on the western edge of Shijiazhuang. The next morning, searchers returned. Deeper inside were her bicycle, sandals, and keys. What they discovered among the corn turned a missing person search into a murder investigation. By late September, a young factory worker had confessed. He seemed to know the scene. The mystery was declared solved. Then, in 2005, hundreds of kilometers away in Henan province, another man described the woman, the bicycle, the cornfield, and something the first man had never mentioned. But when his case reached court, he made a baffling demand. He wanted a court to hold him responsible for this crime, while prosecutors insisted the evidence did not prove he had committed it. Why would a defendant fight to add another killing to his name? Welcome to Paws&Clues with Ajax. Tonight, we're going back into that cornfield to find out why. The woman was 36. Court records identified her only by the surname Kang. She worked at a hydraulic parts factory in Shijiazhuang and usually traveled by bicycle. Her route passed Kongjai village, where factory buildings and workers' homes gave way to dirt paths and tall summer corn. At around 5 in the afternoon on August 5th, Kang finished her shift and rode away. That was the last undisputed sighting of Kang. In the surviving case record, her husband said she never returned home. Yet during the later review, he said he had seen her again at around 11 that night. The contradiction was never resolved. 5 days passed before Kang's father reported her missing. That afternoon, he and several co-workers searched beside the cornfield. In a patch of weeds, they found Kang's dress and underwear. They recognized those clothes immediately. The next morning, they went deeper into the corn and found Kang's body. Around her neck was a separate floral shirt, which was not among the clothes they had found the day before. Original investigators concluded that it had been used to strangle her, a conclusion the 2016 review would find uncertain. Officers conducted an extensive canvass of the surrounding area. 6 weeks passed without a suspect. Then a seemingly unrelated complaint reached them. 2 kilometers from the field, residents reported seeing a young man on a blue mountain bicycle lingering near the factory dormitories. Whenever anyone approached him, he slipped into a public toilet. Suspecting harassment or theft, police watched the area. No one had seen this cyclist with Kang, and nothing linked the toilet to her death. It was simply the only fresh lead. At about 6 in the evening on September 23rd, a young man rode past the surveillance team on a blue mountain bicycle. Officers thought he resembled the person residents described, so they stopped him. His name was Nie Shubin. Nie was 20, a quiet factory worker with a severe stutter. The mountain bike was one of the few expensive possessions his family had been able to buy for him. Now it had placed him before a murder task force. No witness had identified Nie, and no physical evidence tied him to Kang. Police questioned him that night. 5 days later, the first surviving confession appeared. What happened during those 5 days remains unclear because no interrogation records from that period survived in the case file. The September 28th statement said Nie had knocked a woman from her bicycle, dragged her into the corn, assaulted her, and strangled her with a floral shirt. More confessions followed. Nie appeared to know where objects had been found, and police took him to identify locations. Investigators treated each apparent match as further confirmation. Less than 7 weeks after Kang was found, police believed the mystery had an answer. A local newspaper celebrated the result, describing the intensive week of interrogation that had produced a confession. The work seemed finished. But one object never appeared in any of Nie's statements: Kang's keys. On March 15, 1995, a court convicted Nie of rape and intentional homicide. His confessions formed the core of the case against him. No forensic evidence connected him to Kang or the scene. Even so, he was sentenced to death. Nie appealed. The Hebei High Court reviewed his appeal without holding a second instance hearing and upheld his conviction and death sentence on April 25th. 2 days later, Nie was taken to an execution ground and shot. His family had not been told that his execution was imminent. The following morning, his father arrived at the detention center carrying fresh clothes for his son. A detention center staff member told him there was no reason to return. Nie had been executed the day before. His father collapsed. The following year, overcome by grief, he swallowed sleeping pills. He survived, but was left partially paralyzed. Nie's mother, Zhang Huanji, never accepted that her son was a rapist and a murderer. Yet there was no new suspect and no new evidence. The case remained closed. Shortly after 1 in the morning on January 18, 2005, police in Xinjiang called about a suspicious brick kiln worker using the name Wang Yongjun. He claimed to be from Guangping, but had not returned home for nearly a decade. At the center was Zheng Chengyue, deputy director of the Guangping County Public Security Bureau. Zheng immediately thought of Wang Shujin, a fugitive wanted in Hebei for rape and murder. He had hunted Wang since the mid-1990s, even watching Wang's family home during Spring Festival, and began describing the fugitive and his family. Then a man's voice interrupted from the other end of the line. "Stop asking. That's me." With his identity exposed, Wang admitted who he was. Zheng immediately set out for Henan. After bringing Wang back to Hebei and taking him through 3 other crime scenes, Zheng took him to Shijiazhuang. He first asked the local police to assist, but they refused to cooperate. Zheng then asked the village party secretary to guide them to the scene. When Wang pointed to the cornfield, the official froze. "Something's wrong," he said. "Something's terribly wrong. This case was solved 10 years ago. The killer was already executed." Zheng recalled that his department had sent 5 or 6 official letters asking Shijiazhuang police to examine the case, but received no reply. He ensured that Wang's interrogations were recorded and preserved, and he brought the contradiction to reporters. If Wang died before the contradiction was examined, the strongest new lead could disappear with him. In March 2005, the Henan Business Daily published "One Case, Two Killers. Who was the real killer?" More than 100 newspapers reprinted it. Suddenly, Nie's mother was no longer alone. For Nie's mother, even filing an appeal became a battle. She had never received her son's judgments. Without them, the courts would not accept her petition. In 2005, Zhang turned to lawyer Li Shuting and begged him to help clear her son's name. Li initially hesitated. The case was already a decade old, essential records were missing, and Zhang did not even have copies of the original judgments. Reopening a case that had ended in an execution would be extraordinarily difficult. But Zhang refused to give up. She dropped to her knees and pleaded with him to help. Li immediately knelt down too, then agreed to take the case. Li could not obtain the judgments from the court, so he spent more than a year earning the trust of Kang's father. In March 2007, Wang was sentenced to death for other crimes. The following month, Kang's father quietly handed Li 7 pages, Nie's trial and appellate judgments. Zheng said disciplinary teams repeatedly investigated him after he spoke publicly. In 2009, at 49, he was relieved of his duties as deputy director. He also said his son finished first in a civil service selection process, but was not hired. Zheng believed the Nie case had damaged them, although no public finding established retaliation. Even after leaving the police, Zheng advised Nie's family and lawyers. He insisted that Nie's conviction was wrong, while leaving the question of Wang's guilt to a court. From one petition to the next, successive lawyers called and repeatedly asked to inspect the file. By one media count, at least 94 requests were rejected or deferred. In 2013, the Hebei High Court upheld Wang's death sentence, but declined to attribute Kang's murder to him, finding that parts of his account conflicted with evidence in the old case file. There was a possible strategic explanation. Confessing to an unsolved crime could, under some circumstances, help a defendant argue for leniency. But as the proceedings dragged on, and Wang's death sentence remained unchanged, that explanation became less complete. Wang said punishment was no longer the point. He wanted the record to reflect what he claimed he had done. Whether that insistence came from truth, strategy, or some combination of the two, was never conclusively resolved. But proving Wang's confession unreliable would not make Nie's confession reliable. Legally, Nie's exoneration did not require the court to prove that Wang was the killer. It required the court to decide whether Nie had ever been proved guilty. Since 2005, Nie's family and lawyers had been fighting just to see the case files. In late 2014, the Supreme People's Court assigned the review to the Shandong High Court, outside Hebei. In March 2015, the door finally opened. Li and Chen were given access to all 17 volumes, more than 1,770 pages. According to Chen, the hearing lasted about 11 hours, while he and Li were given only about 90 minutes to speak. After a television program appeared to dismiss their objections, Chen stayed awake all night and published 10 posts highlighting crucial doubts. Chen said public disclosure helped prevent the review from collapsing. The confident story started to fall apart. No witness had identified Nie before his arrest. He had simply ridden past on the right kind of bicycle. The records from Nie's first 5 days of interrogation were missing. So were the statements taken from key witnesses during the first 50 days of the investigation, statements that might have resolved her husband's changed timeline. An original attendance sheet collected from Nie's factory was also missing. It might have shown whether he was at work. Nie's confessions changed regarding the date, the bicycle, and the origin of the floral shirt. Only months later did he name August 5th. The details presented as inside knowledge had already been known to investigators. An officer familiar with the scene had entered the interrogation room to check details. Reviewing judges concluded that prompting could not be ruled out. The post-mortem did not reliably establish either the time or the precise cause of death. The source of the separate floral shirt could not be confirmed. The evidence was insufficient to establish rape, and no forensic evidence connected Nie to Kang. And across 13 surviving statements, he never mentioned the keys. The review did not reveal who killed Kang. It revealed that the original investigators had never proved it was Nie. On December 2, 2016, 21 years after the execution, China's highest court announced its decision.
判决如下：
全体起立。
原审被告人聂树斌无罪。
His mother heard the judgment in a Shenyang courtroom. His father was too ill to travel and waited at home with Nie's sister. When the news arrived, they held each other and cried. In 2018, Nie's mother Zhang visited Zheng as he battled kidney failure. The moment they saw each other, they embraced without speaking. Zhang told reporters that without Zheng's help, her son's case could never have been overturned. No court ever found Wang guilty of Kang's murder. Wang was executed in 2021 for other crimes, while Kang's murder remained officially unsolved. The ruling said something simpler and more devastating. The facts used to convict Nie were unclear, the evidence was insufficient, and the required chain of proof had never existed. What remained were a blue bicycle that led police toward a quiet young man, a separate floral shirt whose source no court could confirm, 5 missing days of interrogation, and keys that remained unspoken until another man mentioned them in 2005. None of those clues tells us who killed Kang. Together, they tell us why Nie Shubin should never have been executed for it. Thanks for watching Paws&Clues with Ajax. Until next time, keep following the clues. I'll see you in the next one.